Internet friends. Today we're going to make pozole. I hear over and over this is one of the most intimidating products that we have at Rancho Gordo. And so you know what it is. It's not just corn. And so if you were to go to a typical Mexican market and buy dried corn, it'll never cook because it has to be nixtamalized. You hear that word a lot, but what that means is it's been cooked with cal or calcium hydroxide, soaked, then the skins are rubbed off, and then usually you grind that, and that's where you make tortillas, or you pinch the little nib off, and then that's how you make pozole, which is a famous dish. But here in the United States, in the American Southwest, we take it one step further. After it's been nixtamalized, it's dried again, and that's what this is. So all you have to do is soak and simmer. Whereas if there were regular nixtamal, you'd have to use it right away because it goes bad. Or you're going to use canned, which I'll be honest with you, it's probably about what 80% of people who make pozole use. And I think you'd have just as much luck with chicken cartilage. Once you've had this product, real pozole made from nixtamal, it's just not going to cut it having the canned. So like dried beans, having heirloom varieties and new crop, we've spoiled you. We're going to do the same thing with the corn. So the first thing you do is you go through and you make sure there's no debris. We've done it. And the other thing I wanted to mention is there's no skin on it because we've removed the skin. This actually releases niacin and is actually healthier than the whole grain. And if you have pellagra, which I know you don't, but if you did, this would be a great way of dealing with it by having extra niacin in your diet. Pellagra, by the way, is a really famous disease that stopped the Italians in their tracks because, you know, Mexicans ate tons of corn and never suffered from any diseases. In fact, they were very healthy, and we think maybe the pyramids were built on nixtamal. Whereas in Italy, they would eat polenta to fill up workers, and they were just suffering because it just filled them up. So it's actually healthier having this grain. But I will also say, because there's no skin, it's been removed as it's been dried, it also doesn't last as long. So you really want to use it within 2 years of buying it. And it probably is more vulnerable to bugs, although we really haven't seen it. But corn is a high-fat grain, so let's consume it, huh? But anyway, we don't have anything bad in there. We're going to rinse it. And actually, we don't even need to do that. It's really clean. We do a good job here, I'll be honest. And we're going to make sure it's okay, and we're going to soak it. I would say 6 to 8 hours. And you could do it overnight. The funny thing is you're not going to notice much difference when you soak it. So just soak it and know it's going to be okay the next morning. Through the miracle of the internet and time-lapse machines, it's 8 hours later, and we've got beautifully soaked corn, the pozole. Also, just a clarification that's going to just tick some people off. The dish in Mexico is pozole. So if you went into a grocery store and said, I would like to buy pozole, they would look like they'd think you're nuts. In the American Southwest, the grain and the dish are called pozole. So keep that in mind. What we sell is prepared hominy, or pozole with an S. And then we also have some dear Mexican friends who freak out at the spelling of pozole with an S. But I'll just remind them that the Mexica or the Azteca people did not spell pozole P-O-Z-O-L-E. So it's a living grain, it's a living cuisine, and it all grows. All right, so what we're going to do is this is pretty easy. Turn on the heat. Oh, I did it. It doesn't make a click. Okay. And we'll do medium. I'm going to use the soaking water. You can or can't. It doesn't really matter. And we want to cover it by about 2 inches because the water is really terrific. I'm also going to add an onion to that. I'd say half an onion. And we've got about 1 pound. We're not going to salt yet because we don't really know how it's going to end up. And it might end up in something quite salty. And there's no benefit to that. So I'm going to chop up the onion. You could just put the whole piece in and take the whole piece out if you like. I think since we're going to be using some of the liquid as part of our finished dish, it's nice to flavor it. And because it's corn and thick, it probably is more a gift to the broth than the grain, but who knows? All right, so we're going to bring this to a hard boil, and then after that, we'll be turning it down and letting it simmer. Oop, I can tell from the steam, it looks like we're boiling. And we are. We have a beautiful rapid boil. I'd let it boil like this for a couple minutes if you like, similar to how we cook our beans, but it's going to go. Now, people always ask how long it's going to take. I'd say it's about 2 hours, but budget 3. This, when we made it here earlier, it took 3 hours, but there's a lot of things like what kind of pot, what kind of water. It has no skin. Since it has no skin, it ages much faster than, say, a bean. So there's a lot of different variances. I think if you budget 3 hours and allow for a really rapid boil in the beginning, I think you're going to be pretty safe. But I happen to know this was just made recently. Ouch. And so I'm going to turn it down to a simmer and let it cook. And then I'm going to go watch some Judge Judy reruns while this is cooking. All right. Well, Judge Judy sure showed those young whippersnappers a thing or two, didn't she, with her old folk wisdom. All right. Let's see how we're doing. Again, ouch. These look beautiful. So these are literally the same grains, and you saw how small they are, and they plump up beautifully. And I'll just show you, when you make nixtamal from corn, you want to pinch the germ, which is that end, and then the flour explodes. With pozole or prepared harmony, you don't need to bother, so it's adding a little bit of grain, and the other end explodes. And by exploding, it just looks like a really pretty flour, a corn flour. And I'll tell you, the smell is like a big wet tortilla. It's really nice. So I think that's really one of the benefits of cooking it yourself and not opening the can. And it's great. There should be some chew. It should be firm, but it shouldn't be chalky. If it's chalky, you've still got a ways to go, is what I would say. This is perfect. All right, so let's do something with it. All right, so it's done. That really wasn't hard, was it? And the hardest part at home is going to be figuring out when it's cooked. But again, it's got some good texture. It shouldn't be chalky, but it shouldn't be mushy either. And honestly, after you do this a few times and you go back to the canned, you are not going to be a happy person. Rightfully so. But what can we do with it? Well, as it turns out, I wrote a whole book published by Rancho Gordo Press. So there's plenty of ideas from seafood, vegan, pork. Classically, a lot of times you'd use actually a whole pork head, and that is giving you a rich broth. But today, I'm in a hurry. It's one of those days. The kids, that's my typical story. The kids are driving me crazy. I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to put some of the pozole in a pot. And this is a great way just to start. I don't want to be dramatic, but I love the smell. It's so great. Maybe you have some chili sauce handy that you made earlier, or you can make it for this. A typical chili sauce would be 3 anchos and 2 ajillos, and you make a sauce out of that. It's beyond the scope of this quick video to show you how to do that. You can use canned, I think, but I'm not sure how that would work. But put a little bit of that in there, not that much. And then some chicken broth that, of course, you made. No, there are some pretty okay ones. Of course, I believe in making it. And if you look, we've actually pretty much got soup right here with just the pozole. Now, if you had leftover beans, you might throw them in, and there's gallina pinto is a classic northern dish using hominy and the beans. You could put some protein. If you had leftover chicken, throw it in there. You could do more vegetables in summer. Maybe you want to put some zucchini, or I wouldn't add corn. We actually had one person here add sweet corn to pozole, and everybody laughed. So you don't want that kind of humiliation in your life. You don't deserve it. But classically with pozole, when you make a real good one, you have all sorts of accoutrements, all sorts of lovely little things to add to it, and everybody kind of creates their own salad in a bowl. So it's either cabbage or lettuce, raw onion for sure, Mexican oregano. You can do all sorts of different things. But this is basically, I want to give you a quick heads up on how to cook the corn itself. And so good luck, and let us know what you're doing with it.